Am I the a-hole for having my son miss his graduating road trip to watch his siblings? My son just graduated high school and we were paying so that he could go on a road trip with his friends. He was supposed to go on Wednesday, but my wife's mother and father got into a car accident. They live in another state, so we had to drive about 4 hours away. My wife was a wreck and wasn't in the position to drive since her dad was in critical condition. But luckily he pulled through. We have 2 other kids, 11 and 7, and we can't leave them home alone. And we couldn't find a sitter to watch them on such a short notice. We even tried our neighbors, but he couldn't do it. So that left my 18-year-old, and he was pissed, to put it lightly, but he did it. I told him that we would make it up to him and that if he could ask if his friends could move it back a week. Sadly, they couldn't. We were gone for 2 days and he pulled through. My wife stayed and I headed back home. I paid for him for watching the kids and went to talk to him about getting him on the trip. It was supposed to be 2 weeks long anyway, so his friends should only be 1 state over. He blows up about us ruining his trip and that there's no point of going, even though there was still 12 days left of the trip. He called me a jerk and then locked himself in his room. I need another opinion since this was an emergency and he doesn't seem to care that his grandparents almost died. He ended up calling his mom and let's say it didn't end well. He completely went off on her and said the same things that he said to me, and she had a breakdown on the phone with him. She sent him pictures of his grandparents in the hospital. When he finally came out of his room, he told me that he isn't going on the trip and that the plane tickets aren't needed. When I talked to my wife, I never heard her that mad. Apparently, when my son called her, he immediately started yelling at her, and then he called her selfish, which at that point, she completely lost it. I mean, at the end of the day, we did everything we could to try and find a different solution. But it was just such a short notice that no one was available. Okay guys, so I have to just say quickly, because there is an update to this story, but I'm just trying to figure out why taking the kids wasn't an option. I mean, I get that it's a family emergency and everything, but the kids are 11 and 7. There's no reason why they couldn't go with. Okay, let me read this update and see if it makes it any better. I ended up talking to my son about everything. His friends aren't a state over. They're about 2 states down at this point and they're going to Mexico. They'll probably get to the border tonight and they were supposed to be going to California. He had his passport and everything ready. This is a freaking mess. I haven't told my wife yet, but I'll wait till she's calmer. But I just want to say that I hope none of you ever deal with a situation like this, and please remember that your parents are human too. So am I the a-hole? Okay, so ultimately, I have to say that the parents are kind of the a-hole. I really feel bad for them because it was a family emergency and I really feel bad for the mom and her parents. I get that with all the stress, they probably weren't thinking rationally, but I would have to say that they should have brought their kids with. I mean, if my son already had his whole trip booked, I wouldn't want to ruin that for him. They could have just traveled to the state together as a family, and then the husband could have stayed behind with the kids while the wife went to see her parents. There were other solutions. So, okay, with everything considered, I have to give the parents a 6 out of 10 a-hole rating. Because although they could have made a better decision and just took the kids with them, I can't be too hard on them because it was a family emergency. Also, you guys are probably going to hate me for this, but I have to give the son a 5 out of 10 a-hole rating. I get that he missed his trip, but you would think that he would have at least a little empathy for his mother and what she's going through. So that's just my opinion, but you guys have to let me know in the comments what a-hole ratings you would give them. Also, check out my newest little crystal diamond box that I just recently made. So for this one, I wanted to use crystal clear resin, but you know I had to add a little bit of sparkle. So what do you guys think of the final results?